evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Turkey's president declares control of coup attempt and more than 190 dead in Ankara and Istanbul. The United Nations wants the continuity of Yemeni peace talks in Kuwait between government and Houthi delegations. And the Public Authority for Manpower Register begins tomorrow. Inventory data of skills of job seekers. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in detail. Turkey's president declared he is in control of the country early today as loyal military and police forces quash a coup attempt during a night of explosions, air battles and gunfire that left hundreds dead. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said coup supporters will pay a heavy price for their treason to Turkey. The chaos capped a period of political turmoil in Turkey. General Ümit Dündar, the newly appointed acting chief of the General Staff, said more than 190 people had died in the clashes. 41 police officers, 2 soldiers, 47 civilians and 104 people described as coup plotters. Dündar said officers from the Air Force, the military, police and the armoured units were mainly involved in the attempt, which began last night. More than 1,500 military personnel were arrested across the country. The state-run Anadolu news agency said that more than 1,100 were wounded. The Sultanate's embassy in Ankara affirmed that it has not received any notifications that any Omani citizens were subjected to any harm or nuisance due to the current events in Turkey. It said that all Omani citizens contacted by the embassy were in good condition. It added that the embassy is following up closely the situation of Omanis in Turkey and urged them to stay at their places of residences and take all necessary precautions. The UN-brokered Yemen peace talks will not resume unless the rebels acknowledge the legitimacy of the country's internationally recognized president and abide by the UN resolutions. The government officials of one cabinet member and the second, a presidential aide, said that Yemen's president, Abdul Rabu Mansour Hadi, had made the demands clear in a meeting with the UN envoy to Yemen, Ismail Wald Sheikh Ahmed, yesterday in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. Hadi stressed that his delegation will not meet with the rebels who have controlled the capital Sana'a since 2014 unless these two demands are met. The Yemeni army controls strategic positions of Naham province in the east of Sana'a. This came after fierce clashes with Houthi and forces loyal to them, in which 16 Houthi armed men were killed and 2 Yemeni soldiers were wounded. The Yemeni army controlled Al-Jafra and Martyrs Mountain in Yam area. Yemeni sources said that the army controlled most of the province areas. Airstrikes killed at least 19 people, including children, in rebel-held neighborhood of Syria's city of Aleppo. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that 7 others were killed in the High al-Firdaus area. Aleppo city is divided roughly between government control in the west and rebel control in the east. Last week's government forces advanced to within firing range of only remaining supply route into the rebel-held east, effectively cutting it off and promoting food shortages and spiraling prices. More than 280,000 people have been killed in Syria since this conflict began in March 2011. Still to come in our news bulletin. Nintendo suffered as a latecomer to smartphone games, but it sees the deep wealth of its franchise characters pay off with the success of Pokemon Go.
هنا الرائحة العالقة بالذاكرة تأخذنا دهشة مختلفة لتبهرنا بجمالها الآسر حيث ملتقى الأسرة. امنح نفسك شغف التجربة، فهنا حكاية الجمال لا تنتهي. مهرجان صلالة السياحي 2016 من 15 من يوليو إلى 31 من أغسطس. عمان، المحبة والوئام.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Public Authority for Manpower Register has started collecting data on Omani job seekers, inclinations and their skills. The move is the first step to know job seekers, which enables government bodies to provide support and instruct them on the way to acquire jobs that suit their individual skills and trainings. That takes into account their capabilities. The authority seeks through this step to complete the roles being played by other bodies concerned with career guidance, employment and training, such as the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, Manpower and Civil Service. This endeavour aims to avoid negative phenomenon in the labour market in future and establish comprehensive databases for better planning for human resources in the Sultanate. The Agriculture and Fisheries Development Fund, AFDF, managed in 2015 to implement and finance 16 projects worth 2.4 million Omani rials in the agriculture, livestock and fisheries sectors. The fund has been able since its inception until the end of 2015 to finance 212 projects with a cost of around 38.7 million rials. The project of developing the aquaculture of fin fish in floating cages in the Governorate of Musandam and shrimp fisheries in the Governorate of Al-Wasta come among the most important under implementation projects that contribute to the development of the fisheries sector. Within the framework implementing AFDF objectives for the development and qualification of the Omani human resources, 24 training activities were conducted inside the Sultanate in 2015 for 700 citizens. It should be noted that AFDF was established as per Royal Decree No. 48/204 issued on the 5th of May and enjoys the juristic personality as well as financial and administrative independence. The number of commercial and industrial transactions which registered during the period from the beginning of January until the end of December last year in the Governorate of North Sharqiya reached more than 125 transactions. The commercial registry transaction formed in their categories as individual trader, namely joint venture, limited partnership, limited liability, company investment, companies and international companies. The Ministry of Commercial and Industry called investors in the Governorate of North Sharqiya to benefit from services provided through Easy Invest portal in order to increase investments at various fields in the Governorate. Nintendo suffered as a latecomer to smartphone games, but is seeing the deep wealth of its franchise characters pay off with the success of Pokemon Go, even without a launch yet in Japan. The Japanese game maker was starting to look like a casualty of history until the game was launched in the US earlier this month. Nintendo's co-management missed both the online and mobile revolutions. The popularity of Pokemon Go says much about the untapped value of cultural properties. A financial analysis said that Nintendo might have been slow to adapt to the smartphone era, but now it's doing it in full force and showing tremendous power. Although some analysts think its impact on the company's revenue will be limited because the game is free apart from certain revenue-earning features, Nintendo's original Pokemon game featured adventurous wanderings through a fantasy world to collect cute imaginary monsters. Pokemon Go involves finding digital creatures that pop up on your screen of your mobile phone as you move about the real world. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and its nearby mountains with chances of intermittent drizzle and fog. The rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with a chance of cloud accumulation and scattered rain over the Hajar Mountains. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate over the coast of the Sea of Oman, while in the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea it will be southwesterly moderate to active. Seas will be rough along the coast of the Arabian Sea with a maximum wave height of 5.5 meters and slight to moderate along the rest of the coast with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Turkey's president declares control of coup attempt and more than 190 dead in Ankara and Istanbul. The United Nations wants the continuity of Yemeni peace talks in Kuwait between government and Houthi delegations. And the Public Authority for Manpower Registry begins tomorrow inventory data of skills for job seekers. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.